Hey friends, this is Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we discuss pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both. I'm your host, Julia Washington, and on today's show, Libby Saylor is back, and we are talking 16 Candles. Hey, friends, did you know that I have spoken about representation in media and literature other than just on the podcast? I've been booked to speak at company meetings, panel discussions, voiceovers for commercials and video narratives, and to moderate discussion panels. To learn more about how you can book me for an event, just shoot me an email, popculturemakesmejellous@gmail.com. Use speaking engagement as the subject line. Looking forward to working with you. Sixteen Candles made its theatrical debut on May 4th, 1984, and starred the 80s darling Molly Ringwald. Written and directed by John Hughes, this film has been a cult classic for several decades and is one of Hughes' more notable, long-lasting works. A teen movie about a girl who turns 16 and everyone in her family forgets. She's pining for the hottest guy in school and generally feeling invisible until her heartthrob crush discovers who she is. Over the course of the night, the audience is taken through a high school dance, a high school party, and the ultimate romantic payoff if you're 16. But before we dive in, let me reintroduce you to my guest. Libby Saylor is a blogger and artist living and working in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Her blog, The Goddess Attainable, aims to inspire and empower women to become their authentic goddess selves unapologetically. She explores topics of dating and relationships, self-love, personal growth, and spirituality, among others. She loves spending time with her closest friends and family, including her fraternal sister. They share a love of pop culture and stand-up comedy and love to analyze all things pop culture with their Virgo analytic and critical minds. She also needs nature in her life, loves to cook and bake, and can't go too long without watching a movie in an actual movie theater with popcorn, candy, and soda. Ghostbusters 1984 is her all-time favorite movie, followed closely by Jurassic Park 1993 and The Matrix 1999. She was here in season 2 to discuss When Harry Met Sally, and I'm thrilled she's back with us today. Welcome back, Libby.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to be back.
I'm glad to have you here. And I have to tell our friends at home that since your last appearance, we've become actual friends.
Yeah, kind of not in, I wouldn't say inseparable, but we talk almost every day, if not, every couple of days.
Yeah, which I love.
It's nice. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's your go-to candy when you go to the movie theater?
It varies depending on the salt, because I need a salt and a sweet.
Yes.
So I'll get nachos if I'm at a certain theater, because some theaters have crappy nachos.
Yeah, you
shitty.
can cuss, it's fine.
I can say shitty.
Yeah,
shitty nachos. My local theater has awesome nachos. If I do that, I gotta go with the plain M&Ms. Not very original, but solid. Every once in a while, and if I get popcorn, I'll still go with original M&Ms. I might venture off into snow caps.
Ooh.
Maybe junior mints if I'm feeling off the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What are you?
I always so my son and I, we split a small popcorn, and people are always like, they always try to upsell you and they're like, get the bigger one. But honestly, like, I'm not here for spending the money on a big popcorn where I'm just going to throw half the bucket away. That's wasteful.
Yeah.
So we split a small popcorn, and then I put it in a little container and he keeps the bag because then he doctors it himself. And then I'll get a side of nacho cheese to dip the popcorn in.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that.
Well, I think it's delicious, but I also like live and breathe cheese. And
Okay.
then I was doing milk duds for a really long time, but then I got a bad batch of milk duds once, and it was just like not
Yeah, I feel like
okay.
every batch of Milk Duds is bad. Like, I feel like just my only memory of Milk Duds is just them being really hard and just not good.
Because nobody buys
Okay.
them, so they get too
No.
tough. And then I switched to Raisinets recently, but then my son will get something like fruity flavored. So I'll put my hand out and be like, can I have a couple of yours? So I need a little taste. Way back when Sing 2 came out, I went with my really good friend and her daughter, who I refer to as my niece. And she was like, what kind of candy do you want? And I was like, oh shit, I have all of my staples, but like I have nobody to give me like a fruity handful of candy. So he's like, I need a fruity handful of candy. That's normally what my kid brings, and he's not here. And she's like, I got you.
Yeah, I don't get the fruity at the movie. I don't understand the fruitiness at the movie theater because I need the chocolate with the I don't understand fruit candy in general because I'm just like chocolate or death. But
I have a problem.
yes.
I would live off of candy if it wasn't medically awful for you to do so.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad. Like after lunch every day,
good.
I go and get a sweet treat.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. Okay. Sweets are happening every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happening.
Oh, it's 100% peanut M&Ms. That's what I get after lunch.
I love peanut M&Ms.
That's my snack after lunch. It's my little afternoon sweetness. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Final thing. Freshman year in college, all I remember is we had 2 breaks because I went to art school and we had long hours of like sketching and then we'd go to the break room. Twice a day we'd have the vending machines. I would get a bag of Lay's sour cream and onion and a bag of M&Ms twice a day for the whole semester. Like I gained like definitely, I would say more like 30 pounds. You just can't do that without it showing on your body. But yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
And probably delicious too.
It was delish. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Libby, this next statement is going to feel weird. 16 Candles and I are the same age, and I'm only a little bit older by a few months. So I'm going to insert a crying emoji right here because what? I'm not ready. This movie has all the classic 80s components we love. Parties, high school hijinks, and Anthony Michael Hall and John Cusack. I think it's actually John Cusack's first like major motion.
Yeah, him and Joan Cusack. I think they were like local Chicago kids. Yeah.
They're so cute.
I know.
Even now to this day, I'm like, I need gossip on John Cusack. He's laying low.
The best.
But I just love them.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert's 1984 review was positive. He said, this is a fresh and cheerful movie with a goofy sense of humor and a good ear for how teenagers talk. It doesn't hate its characters or condescend to them the way a lot of teenage movies do. Instead, it goes for a human comedy and finds it in everyday lives of the kids in the story. I have to make a note here for our friends at home. I am fully aware of the problems with 16 Candles, and we will be discussing it a bit later in the show. But for now, we're going to start at the beginning, which is 1984, and work our way forward. So I do want to offer a content warning as we will be discussing the cultural understanding of rape of the 1980s versus current era. So just putting that out there for people who might not be ready for that. Ebert later goes on to say 16 Candles contains most of the scenes that are obligatory in any teenage movie. The dance, the makeout session, the party, that turns into a free-for-all, but writer and director John Hughes doesn't treat them as subjects for exploitation. He listens to these kids. The New York Times at the time also gave this film a decent review and raved of Hughes' directorial debut, stating, 16 Candles shows Mr. Hughes to be well able to direct his own dialogue and to juggle a cast of all-American comic caricatures. So I want to start in the sense of our own innocence and naivete. Do you remember when you first saw this movie, and what was your overall impression at the time?
Well, first of all, you feel bad because you're the same age, but I was 5 in 1984. So, but It's okay. I'm cool. It's cool. I'm cool.
Yeah, I find you
So
to be a very delightful and cool person. This is one of the
right.
reasons
I'm
why we've become
youthful.
friends.
I'm youthful, right? I seem
Yes.
like I'm 16. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried to remember, so I was 5. I don't think I saw it when it first came out, but I grew up with an older sister, 8 years older than me, who was a full-blown teenager in the 80s. So I think a lot of my pop culture and 80s influence all comes from her because she was in it, and I so looked up to her, worshipped her. So I'm sure she introduced me and my sister and I to this movie and to Breakfast Club and all the other John Hughes movies. I remember as a kid feeling like I was appalled by the vulgarity. I like as a kid, I was definitely like, whoa, there's like a lot of raw stuff going on here. Like this is not like an innocent, like I probably shouldn't have seen it as a kid.
Yeah, like that scene where Molly Ringwald, Samantha, gives Anthony Michael Hall, who's credited as the geek, her panties. Like that was just like,
Yeah.
to me, even still, like there was never a point in my life where I was like, that's normal.
I would never, oh my God, I couldn't even, or even just, I mean, just the scene. I mean, nudity is not like, but still, like for a little kid, like when they flash to Carolyn's like
Yes.
naked showering body and they're both staring at her, like talking about her. And just all this, I mean, I was so innocent, just all the sex talk, all the focus on sex.
Mhm.
It was definitely just like, oh, this is a grown up kind of movie. Yeah, I don't know. What were your first impression? I mean, I remember the only other thing I remember is even at a young age, I was like, Jake Ryan is fucking dreamy. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how old, and I remember being really little, my hugest crush, my first crush, like, I might have been 6, was David Hasselhoff in Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's just like so captured my everything. And I remember feeling like that Jake Ryan feeling when you can't not. I mean, if you're
so
a
cute.
hetero, yeah, you just can't not. Even when I watched it this week, I got that, ooh, like when he's at his car after the wedding, you just get that like, oh my God, look at him.
It's so cute. Also
Yeah.
kind of an asshole, but he's so hot.
Kinda,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous. So I don't remember. I have these very like vague memories. We used to go to this cabin up in like the foothills when I was a kid. The TV was old. It was like very much a click, click, click kind of situation.
Oh, nice.
And because there was only so many bedrooms, I always got banished to sleep on the couch because I was the littlest. So I, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm turning on the TV and it was always either Breakfast Club or 16 Candles or some other like obscure movie. Like I've seen some movies that I couldn't tell you what they're about, but I have very clear memories of the scenes that traumatized me.
Yeah, totally.
But with these two, that was always kind of in rotation for whatever the network television was of the 90s, when I was like a little kid and probably shouldn't have been watching them. And I don't think my parents had any clue that was what I was doing at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's one of those movies that once you kind of get old enough to be openly watching movies when you have strict parents, it's in rotation. And one of the things that always struck me as odd and still strikes me as odd in teenage movies in general is showering after gym. We didn't have time to do that. Our PE teacher literally was like, so classes were 55 minutes. And you had 6 minutes when I was in high school, you had 5 minutes to get from one class to the next. They upped it to 6, I think my senior year, because our campus was so huge. It just wasn't realistic. So to me, it was like, who showers after gym? Like our PE teacher would be like, all right, go change. You have 8 minutes to get to your next class kind of thing. So that always and will always confuse me because that wasn't my high school reality with gym class.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a couple traumatizing times and it was in grade school, I think, where they made us, like the gym teacher was like, this is a thing that you all have to do. And just everybody was petrified, especially, there's the skinny girls, and then there's like the not so skinny girls, these poor, everybody who had it's just awful. And I think at a certain point, maybe the teachers gave up on it, or maybe they realized this is weird and not necessary. But we did have to do it a couple times. But yeah, in high school, like just hanging out naked, showering the way
Wrapped
she
in a
was like
towel.
in a spa. And then also just is a little weird that Sam and her friend were just kind of staring at her talking, like as if she wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah. There's a lot of suspension of disbelief that has to happen with some of these scenes.
Yeah, which is like Hollywood.
Yeah,
welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, that scene just always bothered me regardless, because it was like, who's gonna openly stand there? I mean, I don't know, maybe nowadays people would be more comfortable because we're more comfortable with our bodies now, and there's a little bit more self-positivity going around. But like,
I don't think so. Yeah,
I'm not gonna stand,
I would feel bad for someone who had to do that.
I have friends who have never seen me, like, girl, you know, we're all getting ready for the night. I show up ready because I'm not changing in front of you.
Yeah, I don't have like a long list of people who like know what I look like naked.
Yeah.
Like no one. Maybe my definitely my twin sister, but it's not like we prance around naked in front of each other.
Right. So that was always, that scene was always really strange to me, but I did, you know, like I said, it, you know, the film always made it into rotation. I own it on DVD. If I'm too lazy to dig it out, I'll find where it's streaming so I can just watch it on streaming.
But
yeah. And I loved it for the longest time, and we'll get into when that changed in a little bit. I mean, I still kind of do to an extent, but you know.
Yeah, it's like a love-hate kind of situation.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's icky. Like now you're like, oh, that's icky. Oh, that's kind of icky too. So the first record I could find, and this doesn't mean it's the earliest record, but it's the first one I could find on the internet of true criticism of 16 Candles, was the New York Post in 2015. Writer Sarah Stewart offered that this film is racist and sexist and needs to be retired, and suggested 16 Candles should be filed under cautionary tales of the 1980s. In a 2018 article from Vox, writer Constance Grady goes into depth about the cultural difference between rape culture of the 1980s. She begins her argument by stating, in the 1980s, rape, used in quotes, meant an attack from a stranger in a dark alley, not something that acquaintances did to each other at house parties where everyone knows each other. Molly Ringwald herself wrote the now famous article in The New Yorker about her time working with John Hughes, and offers context to the blossoming 1980s cinema. Quote, "It can be hard to remember how scarce art for and about teenagers was before John Hughes arrived. Young adult novels had not yet exploded as a genre. On screen, the big issues that affected teens seemed to belong largely to the world of ABC after-school specials, which premiered in 1972 and were still around when I came of age in the 1980s. She goes on to say that portrayals of teens in major motion films were exploitative, and remembers just how groundbreaking it was when Fast Times at Ridgemont High released, because this film was a much closer portrayal of adolescence. Constance Grady makes a keen observation, though, one that would live in storytelling in Hollywood for the next 40 years and is likely still being used today. She writes, Jake Ryan is the embodiment of fantasy so compelling it instantly makes 16 Candles iconic. What if the object of your romantic high school dreams decided to pursue you without you having to expend any effort whatsoever, just because they could see that you were like deep and more special than the rest of the school? What if they somehow saw that without you ever having to have a conversation or interact with them in any way? In the early 1980s, 90s, and I'm going to go even as up as far as the 2000s, we weren't really having these conversations about intimate partner abuse and rape and what mutual agreement for sexual intimacy is. I mean, there was the conversation about like date rape drugs, but that was more of like a, you know, someone's going to slip something in your drink at a party, which still has that sort of like predatory, like scary vibe. But does the longing many of us have to be seen as something desirable and exciting to a person who's our romantic interest. They fall in love with us based on intrigue. Does this type of trope blind us to harmful representation in Hollywood? Because at the end of the day, Jake Ryan did some really shitty stuff to his girlfriend in pursuit of Samantha.
There's so much here, and it's actually so relevant to even just me as a woman, like right now in this day and age. But like the I have so many thoughts about it. Like the first thought is like, it reminded me of when I was like, this was back when I was single years ago, and I was going to go on a date, and I was talking to my coworker about it, and she just went right into like, oh, you got to put your makeup on and get your nails done and get dressed up and make sure you wear like a, and I remember, so I'm like such a goody goody, like huge goody goody, always have been, always love me. And I remember being like kind of horrified, and I was like, no, like I'm going to do the opposite. Like, first of all, I mean, it was like an online date, so you don't know, 50% chance he's a super creep, you know,
right,
gross, sleazy, he's yucky,
doesn't
whatever.
look anything like his pictures. He's lied about everything.
The last thing I want is to like give him a boner, you know. And so I remember like, I always like when I'm dating, it's very strategic. I'm kind of like downplay my looks in a little bit, and it's this weird way to like, I don't know, test him or something, or just to be like, I don't want this to be about sex. Like, I don't want this first meeting to be about that. So, you know, that came to mind when you were talking about that, but I also thought about this experience when I was in 7th grade, and because I was so conscious. I think I was so conscious of like, I know this sounds weird, but like rape stuff when I was like my whole life, like, and I don't know if that's because my father was protective.
Well, and I think too, as women, you know, it's one of those things that we're just kind of aware of, because there's always that cautionary tale of like, don't do that. You have to do things in pairs. And especially now in the world of online dating, it's like, tell me where you are and what does he look like and where are you meeting and what time, and just that whole sort of vibe of how we have to protect ourselves from predators. Like that is a thing when it should be the other way around, where it's like, just don't be a predator.
Right. And I remember feeling so weird as a kid, because honestly, I didn't get the sense that my fellow females were equally as cautious. And in some ways I was very like envious, because I was like, oh, I wish I could be fearless in dating situations or enjoy myself or whatever. And I was basically like, don't get raped, don't get raped, don't get raped. And I remember but so young, like there was this dance, and it was 7th grade. And I was begged my dad for this amazing puffy pirate shirt, which was in the 90s. That's like the thing at the Express. Yeah. And it was at Express. Oh my God. I could still picture it. It was the perfect. So he bought it for me. I wore that with this like tight mini skirt and getting ready for the dance. I remember looking in the mirror and being like, I am too gorgeous, and I'm scared that I'm gonna like attract some, like I was like so conscious of my whatever. I felt really, really uncomfortable. But it turns out like when I got there, I was like so underdressed. Like everybody else had like velvet dresses, like full on dress, like prom situation. I felt like such a dumbass when I got there. But anyway, it was just, I remember being very scared, even when I felt like overly attractive or something. I don't know if any of that is making sense.
It does make sense, because we always hear, oh, she was asking for it, she wouldn't have worn that if she didn't want it, and shit like that. And you're just like, wait, well, what was she wearing that qualifies as asking for it? Because I don't want to be accused like that. Like I just, you know, so you don't really get to fully be expressive with fashion and your style, and especially if like your body is a little bit more, what are they called, developed. She's very developed. Like you know, people say that a lot about women who are large chest or just curvaceous. And you know, I understand what you're saying, because like there are some styles out there, especially when I was like super fit. I'm not like, I wouldn't say my body's bad, it's just not what it was 6 years ago. But I have always been very aware that there's certain styles I can't wear, because they will be deemed like sexual if I wear it. Like, you know, like a
low cut or something.
Low cut, or even just like Calvin Klein went through a period where he had like all these really great business attire dresses, but they were, you know, tight fitting, and it just accentuated my butt. So it looked like my big old booty was quote asking for it. And it's like, no, this is literally Calvin Klein. Like I got it on sale at TJ Maxx. Like calm yourself.
And it's so hard because it's like there's the whole other school of thought, like own your body, show off your body, love your, you know, like express your sexuality. And it's like, look, I would love to, but I don't want to get raped or
accused of asking. Like that's my biggest thing, like of being accused, because you know I was seeing these girls who were built similarly to me, and that was the accusation. Well, she's flirtatious and she did this and she did that and she led me on, and it was just like, that's terrifying, because what does that mean if I think you're funny? Like, are you gonna think I'm leading you on then? Or like, what does it mean if I'm wearing like pencil, like cigarette pants were really popular for a while, and like I love the way they look. I love the 60s vibe. Like for a while that was, you know, a style I wore, but I had to modify it so I didn't look too sexual. And it was just, you know, it's just frustrating in that way. And then you have a movie like 16 Candles, and granted, Caroline wasn't my favorite character. She was, you know, kind of, they were kind of shitty to each other generally, she and Jake. You know, her comment about like, oh, let's go to Jake's house and have a big party. And then like she doesn't care about trashing the house, that kind of stuff. But that doesn't excuse the fact that Jake's like basically like, you know, take my girlfriend so I can go find some other chick. And then like, she's so blitzed, she won't even know what's going on. Like that kind of shit is not
like
okay.
I could violate, I think he said I could violate her 10 different ways if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because she was like passed out in his bedroom. Which is like, oh God, that's why we even have to worry about that. Is just like a whole other story, you know, a whole other thing. But
but I wondered when I was watching it this week, I was like, I wonder how much of that became sort of subconscious about just, and then that affirmation from, you know, society with the whole, like, because his comment about like, oh, I could violate her, she's not paying attention, blah, to the affirmations of like, well, she was wearing a really short skirt, so she was asking for it. Like that to me, it's like when you hear those messages when you're little, it's hard for it not to get twisted in some way that does make you like more conscious and aware of like how you look and what you wear.
Yeah. And that's why I love your podcast, actually, because the same thing happened with our Harry Met Sally episode. I can't remember what exactly, but like you pointed something out and I was like, honestly, this is the first time I've ever thought of that. And so with the 16 Candles, you know, when you like sent ahead some of these thoughts and we're talking about rape culture. I mean, honestly, I swear my first thought was like, wait, rape culture in 16 Candles? Wait a sec. And I had to like stop and think about it. And then I watched it from from that angle. And now as a grown woman and with my blog and everything else, I'm so super conscious of all of this stuff. But I'm talking like now, like as of the last maybe 2 years, you know, like, and this is really like an evolutionary thing. So I just think pop culture and things that we see and absorb, like nobody's thinking these things. I mean, unless they're like scholars who are like, it's their job to think about this. They're constantly catching things, but I think it's so subconscious. I think it's, you know, when people see this movie, they're thinking about like, it's so fun. He's so cute.
He's so cute because we all want our hot, dreamy crush to realize and wake up one day and be like, oh my God, you're the girl of my dreams. Where have you been? Like, who doesn't
that part?
That?
I know. Yeah. And am I a jerk by being like, because when you were reading about the part about, you know, like this dream guy like notices you, like it's just so unrealistic. And maybe that's just because I had like not, you know, everybody had a shitty high school experience, but like that never happened to me. And that's you know, like who does that happen to?
Right.
or even if it does, it's like, what is he he's going to go off to college and he's going to still like be calling Samantha when she's like a junior in high school. Like, I don't know. So, but I hate to say it. I don't know if it's just because I saw it when I was young and innocent and had so many crushes, but why do I still get giddy?
I do too. I do too. I'm not gonna lie,
so great.
Because it's like, I think for me, it's the whole like, oh, he realizes that he's in love with, or he's not in love with her. They're too young for that. But he realizes that she's like amazing and interesting and different, and
or even that he sees her. Like, I forgot about, of course, the end scene with him in front of the Ferrari is like amazing, but like just, oh my God. But I forgot another awesome scene that I love is when they're at the dance and she first gets to the dance and she's looking for Jake, and then she spots him dancing with Carolyn and she's just like staring kind of like a dope. And he looks up and he sees her and he smiles at her. Yeah. And okay, it's fucked up because he's like dancing literally with his girlfriend, but I don't know, from Sam's perspective, it was just like, oh my God, because if he saw me.
Yes, because if you're Sam, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
You feel invisible and not even, and then you're comparing yourself to Caroline, who's perfect, and you're like, what would he ever see in me? But like the fact that he's just that smile, that kind of stuff I kind of can relate to. I have like these teenage angst memories of like, a popular boy that I had a huge crush on. I thought he thought I was invisible. And there were times where I would feel someone looking at me and I looked over and he was like looking at me or smiling at me. And it was like, so I think Jake just kind of awakens that.
Yes, I totally understand. I know it's so complicated. I can't with the complicated because again, I just want to walk out of work one day and then a bus drives by and then there's my version of Jake Ryan leaning against, my version of whatever hot car I want a guy to drive.
Although wouldn't that be creepy if he was like, wouldn't you be, if he was like, I've been watching you, know what I mean? Like, where'd this guy come from? And just like, wait, who are you? Why do you know who I am and where I work?
Yeah. Yes. See, that's the reality of the situation.
Ruined.
It's just not good. It's just not good. But also we've well established, I want my life to be a buttoned up rom-com. So
I think every woman does. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I will take any kind of rom-com. I'm actually very excited about Dan Levy has a rom-com that he's working on, and like it made big headlines because it's like totally like LGBTQ storyline, and like that's the love that they're going, they're the whole cast and all this stuff, right? And I was like, I can't wait.
Yeah, I feel like if anybody's tackling rom-coms, they're usually in that I feel like the days of heterosexual cisgender just rom-coms are probably, they had their time in the sun for years and years and years. And I think that anything that's going to be done now is probably going to be of that vein, which is really interesting.
And I'm here for it because I fucking love rom-coms.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, can I be the straight best friend? Because there was always a gay best friend. I'm like, I want to be the straight best friend.
That would be amazing.
Yes. I'm like, I will be the one there. Anyway, over the last few years, more conversations have been emerging about the character Long Duck Dong, and NPR's Code Switch in 2015 ran an article titled, "What's So Cringy About Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles?" Author Kat Chow explains why. She says, quote, "Long Duck Dong was an Asian American cliche for a new generation. And like most media cliches, it came with IRL implications," end quote. IRL, for those of you listening who may not know, is in real life. She explains how Asian men have been fighting negative stereotypes for years. And in 2008, Getty Watanabe is on record stating, quote, "I was making people laugh. I didn't realize how it was going to affect people," end quote. And honestly, I don't think either one of us can speak truly on this issue, but I wanted to bring it up here. So we're not ignoring it, we're acknowledging it. And then I'm going to I'm going to link to the Code Switch article in the show notes so everyone can read it and start exploring that on their own. Hughes by Jules offers custom artwork and original prints, specializing in watercolor, focusing on the human form and different shades of skin. If you're looking for that perfect gift for a birthday or have a special memory you'd like to commemorate, visit Hughes by Jules on Instagram or find the Etsy shop of the same name. That's Hughes, Hues, by Jules, Juls. One of the things I always thought was very fascinating was the layers of the family dynamics. Sam's parents, Sam's grandparents, and then Sam's sister and her fiance and his family. The background story of Sam's sister's wedding could totally be its own movie, but it's a secondary story, but also the crux of Sam's plight. But I really find the fiance to be skeezy, and it bummed me out the entire film that the sister was getting married to him. So let's talk about family dynamics and the relationship between the sister and the fiance, because this time around I noticed, I was like, it kind of parallels a little bit to Sam's grandparents in a way, because one of the grandmoms is like smoking while the other one's cooking breakfast, and she's like, how can I help? And her like long cigarette ash is just
she
chilling.
like opens the donuts.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just open the donuts.
Yeah. It's like, please don't let the cigarette ash fall in the food.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love John Hughes movies, is because it's not just one storyline. There's always, he puts a lot of thought into like every aspect of all of it. So I love that. So I actually feel like I'm obsessed with Ginny, mostly because she's so terrible. Like, she's a terrible older sister. Yeah. She's selfish. She's just could not give two shits about Sam. She's very self-involved. She's just pretty ditzy and out there. But I think that the boy, well, the oily bohunk variety, it was named Rudy. I think that Rudy was actually written as a skeezy guy on purpose, because I think the whole point is to pit Sam against Ginny and to show, here's one way to like be a woman and be making choices. But Sam's not that. Sam's above that. Sam's better than that. Sam's deeper than that. Sam's not a bimbo. Yeah. She's going to get the better guy. And it was reiterated too with, I do enjoy the mother daughter and the father daughter. I just think that was sweet, even when the mom like forgot the birthday. And I think that the talk with the father on the couch, like that was, and he talks about, he's like, I'm kind of worried about Ginny. Like, I'm not worried about you because you like have a good head on your shoulders, but Ginny, I don't know. So I think that Rudy was meant to be gross and scuzzy. But yeah, when I watched it again, I was like, that's like really bad. Like they're like in the parents are like in the mafia or something. He's just something like a complete pig.
So like gross, and
and
so like tacky at the club. Yeah. So I wondered
weird.
how old Jenny was, because it was like, well, if I was to get married, I never planned to get married, but like if Sam's turning 16 and they're at that point in time, so that means you're born in the 60s. So like, is Jenny 18 then? Because like, I can't imagine they'd have a child and then 5 years later have a child, because so much of the 40s, 50s, and 60s kids are born in quick succession.
I want to say she'd be like 20.
Okay.
Like, 'cause I don't think she was in high school. I guess she like opted out for college.
Yeah.
But yeah, and maybe they just didn't put that much thought into it. Although Rudy's like a very grown man.
Yes, which is another thing.
Very creepy.
That's another thing that bothered me. But I agree with you about the father-daughter with relationship with Sam and her dad, and Sam and her mom. I loved that scene where she comes up to her the next day and she's like, I am so sorry we forgot your birthday, with all the hubbub of the wedding. And then the little brother who just doesn't give a fuck.
He's so awful. He's so bad.
It's the worst. I want to smack him. I'm like,
he's such a jerk.
I hate you so much.
Yeah, he's so awful. And
then
he's just like, we forgot classic. That's classic that we forgot your birthday.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Terrible human. I hate him.
Yeah. He's really gross.
Oh man. And then at the end, when she's walking out of the church with Jake and the dad sees them and
She's like, this is the boy.
yeah,
He's
she's
just,
like
yeah, he's just
mouthing
like,
it to him and pointing.
yeah. And like the dad is like a huge dork. Like,
Yeah.
he's not like some dream dad, where he's like handsome and, he's just like
Yeah.
this kind of dorky guy. And just kind of everything. He just clearly loves her, thinks the world of her, is just like I kind of feel like I think I loved them too, because it's like, everybody wants to have like the perfect parents, and like nobody has the perfect parents. So when you see sort of perfect parents in a movie, you're like, oh, they're fantastic. So I feel like the dad pretty much hit the mark, and the mom, I mean, she had a lot to juggle with the wedding and all these other things. So
yeah,
she
those
didn't have
new
as much
in-laws they're
time.
attached to that I would not want to be seen with in public. Yes, I am a snob.
I mean, they're really not. They're off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if like I don't know, like these days, like would parents like let your daughter like marry somebody like that? Like,
And even back
would
then,
parents
I'm wondering,
object?
yeah, I'm like, why would you agree to it, especially if she's like just shot, like not even 21 yet? Like, why wouldn't you be like, do you think this is? But then he
And
makes
also
that
6 months.
and
She
he makes
said
that
she was like,
comment
yeah.
at the end in the thing when they're screaming about Jenny getting her period, and she's like, I don't want the whole church to know she got her period.
Yeah.
And then the guy goes, well, I guess all those people who said we had to get married feel dumb now. So like implying that Jenny thought she was pregnant or something, and so they had to get married. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I think they were only together for 6 months. Because remember when Jeannie's like, I've had men who've loved me before, but not for 6 months in a row. Which is just like, whoa, okay. Like, I just don't get how the parents are not, I don't know, talk to her or something.
Yeah, because almost 40 years later, we're gonna pretty much assume that they've gotten a divorce.
Yeah, pretty sure they're not gonna make it.
No.
I hope they don't make it, because I mean, I would be worried for her.
Yes.
Or I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Molly Ringwald and Jake Ryan are still together in my head.
No, they're not, are they?
Sometimes.
Really? Oh my God. I like cannot, you know what? I'm such a jerk. I did the same thing in Harry Met Sally. I'm such a jerk, but I did it the other way. I don't know if like, is it like an equal comparison? Do you know what I'm about to say? I don't want to say it because I don't want to be a jerk. Being in the same league.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I said it,
You said it. It's totally
not
fine.
that she's not like totally adorable, hot, awesome, but Jake, I mean, at the very least, he's going to have a million gorgeous women throwing themselves
all the time, especially
even if he's madly in love with Sam. Like, I mean, what guy is going to like, I don't know, a rare guy.
Yes. And it's interesting is I feel like 16 Candles is one of the few films, and Molly Ringwald's beautiful. Redheads do get a lot of shit for, just generally. And so I love that, Molly Ringwald is this lead, and she's sort of like being this beautiful lead, but she's not dolled up to be beautiful in the way that Jenny was. But I love that, like, an average looking, I'm using average in air quotes.
Yeah.
Looking teenager gets the hot guy, because so often in movies, especially these teen movies, we grew up with like the average looking dude getting the hot chick, or the hot guy getting the hot chick. So like, it's honestly the first time I can recall watching a movie where like a normal chick, a normal girl gets a super hot guy.
Yeah. I think that's why these like John Hughes, these movies were always kind of like why everybody was such a fan of them, because it was that like underdog heroine. Even in like Breakfast Club, like, Ali Sheedy ends up with like I mean, I wouldn't say Emilio Estevez is like the hot jock, but she's like,
no, but like in the 80s, he was dreamy.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's funny. I'm like, I can be like so critical of like all sides, because I'm also like, oh, that like, I don't know, like that, would that really happen, or that would
Mhm.
never happen? And maybe there's this part of me that's just like jealous of Sam. Cause I'm like, well, that didn't happen to me.
Yeah, I
That doesn't
mean,
happen to
that's
any of us. Why does that get to happen to her? Which is really
yeah.
fucked up. But I'm
But
just being
also I feel like
honest.
that's, a normal response too at the same time, because
Yeah.
you're not wrong. Somebody who maybe isn't in a situation where they have that sort of idyllic, because she's living in this beautiful house. They have, this beautiful neighborhood. She's got a
You're
structure of
like,
a
that's the
family.
thing. I don't feel bad for, that's the thing. I don't like quite feel bad for her enough.
Yeah.
Like, she's totally adorable.
Yeah.
She's got like friends. She's got her good parents that I never, like,
And it's not like her character in Pretty in Pink where she's got the single dad who can't
yeah,
keep his
that
shit
was rough.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit more like, oh God, that sucks. And
Mm-hmm.
the mean girls in that movie were so mean.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in this one, it was more just like, she's gonna be fine. Like, Sam
Yeah.
is gonna be, she does not have, there's so many kids who have it way harder
Yeah.
than her.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say though is, and I forgot to mention, what do you think of the girlfriend, her girlfriend? I think she kind of sucks. Is that just
The best
me?
friend. Yeah.
I think she says like mean stuff. Like, I
Yeah, she kind of,
remember,
yeah, go ahead.
well, like I remember being upset, like the very first scene where, she's like, I can't believe they fucking forgot my birthday, which is an
Yeah.
amazing line. So then it flashes to they're at her friend's locker, and her friend is just like invalidating all her feelings. Just like,
Yeah.
come on, Sam. Like, what did you want? A breakfast birthday? And it was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
and she was like, no, but they could have said happy birthday, And so the friend's like doing that. And then like, she just kind of, I think when Sam reveals that she likes Jake, her friend's like, he doesn't even know you exist, which
Right.
is like, I mean, yeah, no shit. Like, you need reality checks from your friends, but I don't know.
Right.
She just is like, not that nice. I guess
Yeah.
I don't like how not nice she is.
I always thought she was kind of a throwaway character.
Oh,
In like the scene when they're at the dance and they're sitting on the bleachers, and then the
yeah.
geek comes and sits by them, and she and the guy that she's with, who also is very attractive. So
He
thank you.
is very
Yeah.
attractive.
They're just kind of awful to him. But I
Yeah, they're
think that
so
like,
mean to him.
yeah, but I think like that scene doesn't necessarily have to exist either. Like the movie would have
Yeah.
still worked without it. But to me, she was just kind of a throwaway character. There wasn't really a whole lot there for me.
Maybe it's also to show like, look, Sam has a best friend. Like, she's not
Yeah.
this like friendless person. Like, she has a friend who calls her, and they ride the bus together, and they show
Yeah.
up at the dance together.
And she
She's
finds out that her, she's the one who tells her that her panties have been,
yeah.
shown off in the locker room.
I would say my favorite, all-time favorite person, and you might, for not sure if we're getting into this later, but the Anthony Michael Hall, I just feel like I could not say enough good things about him.
He's such a good actor. He was so
He
like,
is beyond his years for sure. And I think he had that like innocence that I liked, that I feel like was missing through everybody else was a little bit like, had an edge, or even Sam was like kind of too cool sometimes. Like, she was
yeah.
way mean to him. She was too cool for like Long Duck Dunk. She was kind of too cool for like a lot of people, but like, he's just like this refreshing, open-hearted
Yep.
guy. So yeah, I love him.
Just, a classic geek in the sense of he just wants people to like him. He's bordering that whole like, these are my friends and we have things in common and I love these things, but also I want to be cool.
Yeah, but he's also sort of is cool. Like, even when they were in the car and he was just like, yeah, but I'm kind of like the leader, kind of like the king of the dipshits.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, that's sort of cool. Like, he does have this like authority over his friends.
Yeah.
So, and then he also has this amazing rapport with Jake.
Yes,
like
they're
that
just
first
totally
scene,
chill with each other.
yeah, he's just like, look, Jake, he like, I don't, which is so awesome, because it's like, he could be totally intimidated by this guy, and he's like ends up talking to him like a normal person, because he's kind of like, with a geek, he knows who he is. Like,
yeah,
he knows who he is. He's not trying to, he just is who he is. So
yeah.
I love him.
I do too.
And I love him in this movie. Yeah.
He's on the Goldbergs. He's one of the teachers on the TV show The Goldbergs.
Oh, he is. You know what? I haven't really watched that.
That's okay. It's,
Not
it's
bad.
like 9 seasons long. So like the first 4 seasons are great. And I'm sure, all the seasons are great. But after a while, my son and I just didn't tune in every week
It's too
because we were
much.
just like, okay, we get it.
Well, and also like older Anthony Michael Hall is way different than like
Yeah.
80s Anthony. Like, does he have any of those like qualities as an adult in the show or
Mm-mm.
not? Yeah,
No,
I
and
feel
and I
like,
think it's a nostalgia factor to have him on the
yeah,
show as like
totally.
a sort of not a reoccurring character as in every week, but he does make an appearance when they are at school.
Yeah.
So but still, like, I didn't recognize him until I saw his name in the credits.
Wow. Yeah. He totally looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. How old were you when
Oh.
you realized there were problems with 16 Candles?
Okay. So full honesty,
Mm-hmm.
disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
Like last week when you had me I'm kidding.
Oh my
Okay,
God, I love it.
I'm no, I'm partially kidding. I'm also like I had to really think about it, but definitely, grown woman.
Yeah,
For
same. I was
sure,
like
grown woman.
32 when I realized that there were problems, maybe a little bit older because I was like, oh my gosh, I went through this phase where it's like, kid, you have to watch all these movies that I loved when I was a kid. I want to have this, like, I want to share this experience with you. And
Yeah.
we're watching it. And I was like, so when you're watching it through the lens of being a parent, you're just
Oh
like,
my God. You must have to make a
mm,
disclosure like every
mhm.
scene. Like, okay, well, wait, this is this because of this, but don't do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, he doesn't have the same affection, which is totally fine. But I
I
was
would,
also a
yeah.
full on grown ass woman.
I think it has to do with just like, because this is the thing, our awareness as women about women, I feel like we each have our own awakening. Some
Mm-hmm.
people awaken really, really early, maybe because their parents are all constantly pointing things out, like these types of like political things. But like for me, I mean, and I think for most women, it is so embedded in the culture and it's
Yeah.
almost a survival thing because we're also taught if you want to survive in this world, like you probably need to get a man who has a
Mm,
fair amount of money or and
mm-hmm.
just from
I
the
mean,
very
that's my
beginning.
joke. That's my joke is that I'm
Yeah,
gonna go and get Hollywood hot so I can be a trophy wife because paying all these bills myself isn't working out.
totally. You are not alone, woman. Like, I mean, it fucking sucks. And
Yeah.
it's just we all want that. And I mean, what's funky now about times is like even men are in position, at least younger men are in
Yeah.
positions like they actually now need women to help them out, but that's a whole
Yeah.
other thing. But I mean, I think that I was just so obsessed with finding a man or
Mm-hmm.
being desirable for a man, but making sure I wasn't too desirable to get raped,
Right.
like all these things. And then at a certain point, and I always attribute like my blog is like just a huge part of my awakening because
Yeah.
I had that like snap moment and it was after a date. And it was after a date where the guy was okay, but he skeeved me out. He wasn't aggressive. It wasn't, but like I was like so mad that I had to that I was in a situation where I had to be polite to this guy that was really gross and that I
Mm,
wanted nothing to do with. And I got in the
mm-hmm.
car and I was just like so angry and it felt so good to be angry for the first time and to not be like giving the man the benefit of the doubt or
Mm-hmm.
giving
Mm-hmm.
society the benefit of the doubt. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is fucked up. This is how I feel, and then the blog kind of came from that, but it's been like this journey every experience that I have in life kind of on a daily basis. I have new feelings of like, oh my God, that's fucked up. We've
Mm-hmm.
been dealing with that for years and we didn't even realize it because it's just like
Mm-hmm.
a part of us. So
Yeah. I think
yeah,
I think Gen Z has less deprogramming to do because I think Gen
totally,
Z is the
totally.
first generation that's been able to like we and I talk about this with my friend all the time. I was, we had friends in high school who still didn't feel safe to come out. And I know that exists still now, but we didn't
Yeah.
have conversations that are existing in media now. We didn't have LGBTQ creators making television
Mhm.
shows normalizing being gay or lesbian
Oh
or
yeah, no.
non-binary,
Yeah.
and so I feel like Gen Z has less programming because
Yeah.
sometimes things will happen and and still to this day I'll be like, wait, Cause we were pretty progressive growing up in the sense, cause we're a mixed race family and like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that we have to think about, but there's still, I still grew up in a conservative area. I still grew up in a religious home, and there are still things where I'm just like, wait,
Yeah.
my thought process on this, the way I think about this, I need to challenge, because now I'm seeing these things, these conversations happening around me, and I'm confused. So,
Yeah.
which is not,
Yeah. And I
it's,
feel like,
I'm glad that Gen Z has less deprogramming to do, but also it's hard. And I sometimes wish that there was more grace for the generation and older who is trying to get better and who is trying to deprogram and who is trying to understand. Cause like I said earlier, that idea of like that statement that Jake says, like how much of that got into my subconscious about how he could violate Caroline.
oof.
And then, and how does that influence like the way and inform everything else that I've done, because I was watching it at such a young age.
Totally. And he was so hot. And like there's this fucked up thing that we as women and probably men do too, is like, if he's hot, end of story, he
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah.
There's no fault. Like there's this fucked up thing that we do with women too. If she's gorgeous, she's perfect.
Yeah.
We're not going to hold her accountable for half the things that she's probably accountable for, because she's gorgeous and she gets a pass. And obviously we do that with men too. But, and yeah, I identify with Generation X, actually, born in 1979. So I feel like, yeah, deprogramming, for me, it's just kind of constant. I'm almost kind of like, I'm pretty much going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And also like, there's still shit that's like being unearthed, like in society, like all the time, like new things. So, good for Gen Z for just like, at least having a handle on being like, whoa. There's some fundamental things here that are ridiculous, cause I didn't have that until honestly, like 5 years ago, where I was like, wait, this is fucked up.
Yeah. The conflict between loving this movie and understanding the problems with it is so real. But I'm really glad you came by today and you agreed to be on my show again. Cause
yeah, I'm glad you had me watch the movie again too. Cause I don't know. I really enjoyed watching again. I'm not going to lie. I just loved, after all that we've talked about, I'm just going to say, I just love those Jake moments.
I do too.
They're just
not
magical.
The ones with him and Caroline, but him and Sam.
No, him just smiling, or him just like their awkward moments. That was like, I don't know. I just like needed that this week. So that was like really nice.
Cause he's so cute. Stupid Jake Ryan. Stop being so hot.
He's probably not hot now. I mean, I think he lives on a farm.
Oh, I did know that. I kind of love that. I kind of love that.
He like, that makes him hotter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would be so ideal to like, cause I do kind of like a little rugged cowboy look.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
But like sometimes I can't deal with the politics. So I'm just like,
that is tricky.
Can I get me a rugged cowboy who also doesn't think that some of the things that I believe are the devil?
Yeah. You need like a progressive East Coast organic farmer.
Yeah.
That's probably who you need.
Yeah.
Maybe out west too. Yeah.
Maybe. Definitely not a cattle farmer. There's a lot of them around here. I can't deal with that smell. It's awful.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll find something else for you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Libby, can you please remind everybody where they can find you if they want to keep up with you online?
Yes, you can follow me on my blog. It's thegoddessattainable.com. You can sign up for my newsletter on that website. You can follow me on Instagram at thegoddessattainable. And those are pretty much my two main channels. So check them out if you're interested.
And friends, we will link to them as well, so to make it a little bit easier for you. And I am just so glad that you were here today for us to talk about this.
I know. So nice to talk live.
I know.
You don't usually do that.
It's a lot. I know.
It's so nice to see you.
Yes, I'm so happy to see you like actually in time.
Yeah.
Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous is written, edited, and produced by me, Julia Washington. If you love our show and want to support it, there's a few ways you can do that. You can become a supporter on Patreon for $10 a month to receive ad-free episodes with bonus content, or you can write a review and rate the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And lastly, if neither of those things is your style, you can find us on Instagram, give us a follow, and share our video clips with your friends. We're on IG as Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.